All right, as we're welcoming everyone in, I want to say thank you for joining. We are on several platforms this morning. So we are on Zoom and LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube. So I have a couple of tabs of admission for folks to get in and join us. We're going to give it just a minute. While we're waiting for other folks to join, if you would drop in the chat the type of industry your nonprofit is. I'd love to cater some of the content to those specific organizations. Awesome. See a couple familiar faces. Good to see you all. We have a ton of information to cover today. So we're not going to have a lot of time for introductions per usual. Let's see, make sure I've got everybody in. And let me get a good old-fashioned thumbs up. Either annotate or, yeah, perfect. You guys can hear me and see the screen. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So let's get started. Let's get things going. All right. So my name is Nisi and I'm with AJB Consulting Group, and we are an innovative AI agency, and we really cater to solo, micro, small businesses and nonprofits. And one of the things that we love to do more than anything else is provide accessible trainings. And so that's what this is today. A component of this is what's going to be provided for the One Star Foundation Texas Nonprofit Summit and for next year. But I know that not everyone has the access to go or the funding potentially for that type of training. And so I always try to make sure that I provide any training in those platforms. I also provide free to my own network of nonprofits and micro organizations. I do see that we have some for-profit organizations here. I promise you, outside of some of the mission type conversations, this will apply to you and your organization as well. All right, so I want to go ahead and just kind of get us working through. There's a lot of content, there's a lot of information, and I want to make sure everybody has time to ask questions towards the end. So the biggest question is really, what is AI? I think there's a huge misconception. People believe that it's kind of just bots kind of waiting to take it over. Some people believe that it is more of a information data grabbing thing. And I have to tell you, all of the above are true. AI is a means, just like years ago, social media was a means. I remember very vividly when social media first came out and was really being pushed and used, a lot of organizations, they were hesitant. They didn't want to be on Facebook or share their information that way. What happened because of it is that you have a lot of organizations that were just kind of left behind, and they spent probably years trying to play catch up or lots and lots of money to get ahead in the game. And it's really important to be mindful that this is no different. AI has actually been around for a very long time. We've been using it just on a micro scale in a lot of our different platforms and features. When you order something, in a shopping cart, AI is there. When you are making a call to your utility company, AI is there. It can be anything from predictive communication to analyzing and assessing information that you provided. So this training is really dedicated to those nonprofits that are kind of sitting in the space of, I know we need to use it, not sure what it's for, not sure how to manage it. And most importantly, I think there's a lot of concerns about governance and policy and procedure because we just don't have that infrastructure built just yet. So let's talk about what that really could look like for you and your organization. So when you think about ways that you can use AI, it's really important to not think of it as an end all be all, like it's going to solve all the things, but really strategically think, what gaps do we have that we really can't fill with bodies, human individuals, FTEs, people management, that you can leverage AI in those spaces. So, some of the smart spaces to use that is obviously your fundraising and donor relations. There's a lot of components out now that actually sit in your donor database platforms that help you with fundraising and donor relations. The other way is program delivery, understanding case management, figuring out what your needs really are. Sometimes, because we are human and we are biased, figuring out those needs is based off of what is the biggest pain point for us and not really what the data sometimes will always show us. And it's also important as a nonprofit that you can express your impact. With no impact, no money, right? And so figuring out ways to best describe how impactful you are. So if you have trouble with writing or storytelling about the impact that you provide because of your nonprofit, AI is probably a good tool for you. It's also great for operations and admin. Just getting some, mundane tasks completed is really helpful. If you receive your financial report from a third party and you're like, yeah, that's a lot of information for me to consume or summarize, AI can do that for you. So think about, those spaces that could save you some of that time. Marketing and communications. AI is available to create your content for you. If you are not available to chat on your website, AI can do it for you as well. Sometimes it's that consistency that we lack. And so things like creating a newsletter can be a powerful tool for your organization. What about your volunteers? How are you managing them? How are you onboarding them or training them? Are they volunteering for just one event, several events? What about tracking volunteer hours? So it's really important that you understand you have to know what your needs are in order to implement AI successfully. So some common tools for AI are ChatGPT and Claude. I think everyone has probably heard of ChatGPT. It is kind of the grandfather of this open AI source. And really, it just allows you to take this language model and teach it what's important to you. Teach it how to take the information that you have and do what we call prompt engineering. So prompt engineering is really the tool that you need to have to use AI efficiently. Some of us have heard about Claude. Claude is designed in artifacts. And in those artifacts, what happens sometimes is you get to kind of create this dialogue. Think of it as a thought partner where you can kind of have these little digital binders of information that you can have different conversations about. And so a lot of people have turned to Claude not just because of the way it's set up and the optics, but also because if you purchase the enterprise level, all of your information stays within your organization. It's not shared data. The next thing is, understanding automation tools. Sometimes the work that we do as nonprofits is really about figuring out the best way to get something done, or it's that tedious step by step thing that we need to do. And wouldn't it be great if maybe we don't have the resources for a donor database, but when we get a donation, we can use one of these automation tools, which you can use for free to send out those thank yous as automatic replies. You have to remember not every nonprofit is created equally or has the same budget. And so it's really important to figure out like Where are we missing things? Where are we dropping the ball? Where could we really use somebody to come in that could be task oriented or automation oriented to really help us leverage some of those things? One of the things that I think about often is lapsed donors and how you get them to come back and what that looks like, and being strategic in that space. So when we think about, oh, and I know this one's tiny, sorry about that. When we think about the benefits for using AI, excuse me, when we think about how we can use it just for fundraising, think about all the things that you have to create or curate in order to fundraise. So your presentations, your emails, handouts, any type of releases, if there's PR work, if there's grant proposals that sit behind some of that fundraising, all of these spaces can be really used to help you leverage that playing field, so to speak, especially if maybe you don't have a grant writer, or maybe you have someone that's wearing multiple hats and they could use a little bit of help. Maybe you want to start getting into video and you're like not really sure what to do. You can prompt engineer these platforms, tell it who your audience is, ask for ideas to curate these video scripts that are really intentional, that speak directly to the audience that you need to talk to. Some of my favorites are Giving Loop. If you've ever considered a monthly donation as a means of revenue, Giving Loop is great. They're intuitive. There is a price tag attached to it, but it really is a set it up and done for you platform. It does a lot of the work determining what's the next price point that donor would be willing to give or potentially give. So if you have someone that gave $100 this, this time, could you say, I noticed that you gave $100 during this event. Would you like to become a monthly giver and provide $25 a month? And so it really goes into the demographics of your audience, of your donors, to determine the best next step for them to give and maintain all of that internally. Another one is Donor Perfect. Donor Perfect is a kind of mastermind for your development team. It will help you curate all of the content that you need for social media platforms, email marketing. You can upload videos. And remember, you don't have to wait, right? So if you're doing end of year, thank you videos, you don't have to wait till October or November for the CEO to create those. You can go ahead and upload them, put them right into Donor Perfect, and Donor Perfect will attach that to a specific type of segmented giving. So if you have any end of year giving, you tag it as end of year giving, and that means that this person is also now going to get a video from the CEO, and it's something that you can set up in February before the end of the year. So there's no like rush to get it done, or put those things into place. And it's very easy to disconnect these tags and segments and Donor Perfect as well. All right, so let's talk about, some of the things that you really want to do a deep dive, because maybe it will be beneficial for your organization to really understand how this works. If you had to pick one thing for AI to do, I would say it's donor behavior prediction. Years ago, not even years ago, currently, there's a lot of platforms that pay or that cost thousands and thousands of dollars to help create donor behavior prediction. And you can now pretty much for free do that in AI. It will focus the efforts on who's most likely to give. If you have a hyper specific type of donor that you're looking for, it will help you curate content to speak to that donor. It's going to help you with the appropriate ask. How many times have we asked for $5,000 when the appropriate amount might have been 1,000 or we've asked for 1,000 and the appropriate amount might have been 5,000. So it's really important to know, where you're going. There's a saying, you don't want to be where the puck is, you want to be where it's going. And this is what will help you when you're thinking about how to speak to those donors. So if you only use it for one thing, I would say let it help you with donor behavior prediction. So now we're going to do some real life scenarios. I'm going to jump into ChatGPT, but I'm also going to jump into Claude so you can see what it looks like when you put in this information using the different scenarios. So we have several scenarios set up. One of the scenarios is about donor retention. So this one, you're the development director. You got some pain points on how you can identify which lapsed donors are most likely to give again and create personalized re-engagement strategies. So here's what's important to remember. When you're using AI, the information that you put in is the prompt. But think about it as a conversation, not as a transaction. So think about it as someone that is the subject matter expertise in donor retention. And you're asking them, because they're the subject matter expertise, hey, how can I use this information that I'm about to give you to take care of this pain point? And when you start working on communicating with your AI platform as a thought leader or a thought partner, the information that you give it will allow it to provide you with a better amount of information. So give me 1 second. I'm going to split screens and get this up so you guys can see it. 1 sec. All right, we're going to start in Chat GPT just because I feel like most people are familiar with it. And then we're also going to do Claude just so you can see a real life example. And of course, fingers are crossed that there's no issue with this because sometimes you go to do a live um, session and it's like, yeah, just kidding, we're not going to work for you. So the first one that we're going to do is the donor retention scenario. And I'm going to literally just copy paste what I had on that screen before about donor retention. And I'm going to put it into ChatGPT. Now, this is the free version. There are more and more levels to this. You can get a paid version for about 20 bucks. You can get an enterprise version as well. So let's see. So one of the great things about ChatGPT is, again, think about conversation. It will ask you questions. It's going to summarize and ask you questions. So how can we identify which lapsed donors are likely to give and create personalized re-engagement strategies? So the first question that I would ask, or I would say is, what other information do you need? Because remember, this is a thought partner. This is not a transactional space. So think about it this way. You're at a networking event with other nonprofits. You find somebody that specializes in donor retention, and you say, hey, I just want to pick your brain. This is what's happening with our lapsed donors. What do you think? They don't typically go, "Oh, you just gotta do this." They typically ask more questions, which is what you really wanted to do, and that's what it's done here. So it's asking you about frequency, about gift size, and if you don't have this information, guess what? Now it's time to figure out how to get it. So this is what I mean when I say it's not this transactional input output, unless you're asking it to kind of summarize a document. What you're doing is creating a thought partner that's going to make you answer more questions to get to the root cause. So if I were to say, the only thing that I have is XYZ information, what should my next step be? Or in this case, what I'm going to say is, I don't have that information. What should my first step be? And now it's gonna give me step by step. And I'm like, "Okay, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. That seems like that's gonna be a lot of work for me to do." So my next thing is gonna be, um, give me a 30-day timeline to get all of this stuff accomplished, right? Like, what does that look like?
Because I used to go to Dropbox, like, would have it on calendar, food, and I would like update, don't get that updated. Hey, you want to share it with me? So I was, so I think that's something.
Now it's broken down for me, step by step, how to get this accomplished in 30 days. Again, AI is not transactional. You have to think of it as a thought partner. Think of it as you going to speak to the subject matter expert and whatever information that you are entering into that system. For everything that's on this list, you can always ask for it to expand. So I'm just going to go to week 1. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to say, we're going to ask it to expand on that information. And now it's breaking it down. So maybe you are a team of 2 or 3, and donor development is not your like hyper specific, superpower. Now you're getting step by step ways to implement this strategy. It's giving you a timeline. You can even put into the prompt, we are a team of 3 people. We can dedicate a total of 4 hours a week to this. How long would it take? What should we do? It's a thought partner. It's not transactional. That's the biggest takeaway I want you to have. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this same scenario, donor retention scenario, into Claude. You guys let me know if it is too tight in the text. Okay. One of the things Claude is known for is coding. And so it will sometimes move right into that coder aspect. Don't get nervous, don't get worried. It's really just producing, pumping out all the information the fastest way possible, which is code. ChatGPT is doing it in code, you just don't get to see it. So you can always say without coding, this little HTML right here is just letting you know that it's in code. And so it's telling you, here's the things that you should do. Completely different information. It really is about, which one you receive the best. Let me close this so you can see this a little bit better. It really is about the information that you like to receive or how you like to receive it that will be most helpful. Here it's talking about creating a scoring system, prioritizing strategy, and then the automated recommendations based on. So this kind of doesn't do more of the like the list that Chat GPT, I'm gonna go all the way up. Don't get dizzy on me, that they do, right? They're like, where do you want us to start? So you kind of have to spoon feed Chat GPT a little bit more, but and also with Claude, it will take the information and then you'll be like sitting in a calculus class, right? So you got to figure out like which one, which platform kind of speaks to you the most. When I think about Claude, I think about you know, whenever you read a book and there's words that you don't understand, you got to go look up the words in the book that you're reading. That's kind of how I feel about Claude. All you have to do is say, simplify this. Can you simplify this? Can you explain this? Can you give me a better understanding? This is not the space that I'm typically in. I'm going to go to the next scenario so you guys can see what Claude will do with that. So the next scenario is about impact measurement. And the pain point is that they can't effectively analyze their scattered program data to demonstrate clear impact or ROI to their funders. So I'm going to go in. I'm prompt engineering by feeding it the information. And you always want to start a new chat, new conversation, new chat. I'm just putting in the scenario to see what it gives me back. When you pay for Claude, like the minimum $20 package, and you start to tell it often, don't put this in code, it will stop putting everything in code so much. When you're on the free one, it kind of sometimes will default to putting it in that code. Just go ahead and take that out. It's just trying to process, and that's how it processes fastest. So here you go. It's walking through the effective use of framework to tell your impact story. It's giving you the core impact metrics. It's giving you the narratives, the ROI demonstration. How many times have you tried to come up with the ROI or prove the ROI or give a storytelling version of the ROI and just weren't able to do that? And then it's even giving you suggested reporting formats. So this, again, another thought partner. You're not starting from scratch. You're not starting from someone that's had, you know, really poor success in implementing impact stories. You're starting from an unbiased place of, here's a clean slate. Here's how we can do this. Now, the next thing that you want to do, because remember, this is a conversation partner that you're having, I would say something like, these sound great. However, I really am trying to focus on creating storytelling videos that prove the impact that we provide. Have the conversation with your AI platform, okay? I'm gonna do one more because time always goes really fast. Let's do grant management scenario because none of us have issues with grant management, right? All right, let's do a new chat. I know I saw a couple of arts in the introductions, art organizations. Again, when you have the paid version, you can kind of give it more directives. This right here is part of the reason that it goes straight into code. AI was originally designed to create databases or create performative, intuitive spaces on in digital presence. And so this is what it would look like in real life if you were to actually copy this code and upload it to a website. So whether it's a share drive or Wix or whatever platform you're using, it would actually put this in that website for you. So for those of you that use things like share drive or SharePoint, this will be a great way to upload those documents. On board, if you're needing information to give to your board members, another great place for you to give that information. So you just have the preview side, and then you have the code side, which is what we talked about before. I'm going to close this just so you can see what it's telling you to do. So this is your grant management dashboard. And you can even continue to have a conversation, say, okay, I need you to give me more detail, or I don't understand how to create a spreadsheet. Now, I will say this, when it comes to creating documents in spreadsheets, ChatGPT does a much better job. You can go in and say, I need to create a spreadsheet about, and it will create that spreadsheet for you. It will create the document for you. So if that's the space that you need to be in, which is why I go back and forth from ChatGPT to Claude. Here's the difference. ChatGPT is an open space, meaning any information that you put on it is going to be shared on some level. Claude, you can purchase an enterprise space, so the information that you share in it stays in your enterprise. And I think I have a slide to show you how to get that. So let's go back into, I don't want to eat up too much time on those scenarios, because I know one of the big questions is really about governance and what that looks like. And like, what am I supposed to do? There's no like federal governing body for this infrastructure yet. So the biggest thing that you have to consider is your own ethics and values. If this is not something that you feel as an organization you're comfortable with, or you feel as an organization you're comfortable managing, but maybe you get a third party to do those things, then absolutely. But also start to consider what ethical use guidelines you would use. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be kind of gray, like social media policies and procedures, right? It's this kind of balancing act. Like, where do I want this space to sit? Do we want to be more innovative? Do we want to be more cautious? What does that look like? Another concern that comes up a lot is bias awareness. Because it is an open platform, or most of them are, the information that you're getting is from other people, and other people have biases. And so it's really important to kind of create or articulate, when you're prompt engineering, telling it what you need to remove the bias or speak to the bias. So saying things like, this is the report that we have. Can you identify XYZ bias about the clients that we serve or the services that we provide? Another component is that data management, like who's going to do it? How are you going to protect information? Right now in your organization, if you have somebody that's got to summarize spreadsheets, if they're clever, they've probably already been using AI. So they're probably already going in and figuring out, okay, what can I do to utilize this platform so that I can make my job easier, right? And the goal is to remember that you don't really want to take away the means to help them leverage their position. You just want to create that structure behind it. Another thing is the storage and security. There are platforms that, again, you can keep all of your information contained within your own, we call them agents or architects, but your own bubble. And then how are you going to implement this? What usage policies are you going to use? If you are in a demographically sensitive space, maybe open AI is not for you, and you want to use the closed one. So you can feed it all of the information that about your organization that is critical, and the perspective or the lens that you want to be used. Another thing is, how are you going to train your staff? The goal for AI is to learn how to prompt engineer so that you can get the right information out, and not just kind of ask it a question, it spit out a result, and then your team members just kind of copy paste and release that information. And then how are you going to regularly figure out, is this the best space for us to be in? And I'll be 100% honest with you right now. The goal is going to be finding someone that can help you support that framework, that governance, that is really hyper focused on AI and all of the changes that are coming through the pipeline because they're coming and they're coming really, really quick. You want to make sure that you are transparent. A lot of people are using AI right now and they're not saying it's AI generated. This can be helpful. If you have generated something on social media, um, it will give a little disclaimer AI generated. It's helpful because if maybe it's not the most helpful post that you've had, people can see, okay, it was AI generated. Somebody just didn't do a double check to make sure it was appropriate. It's helpful in a sense of it forms, the folks on your team, how you're going to be using that data, how you're going to contain the sensitive material, and what that looks like. We, as fundraising professionals, we all are kind of under this oath to really be mindful of respecting the privacy of our donors, all kinds of donors, whether it's in-kind donors, funders, grant, whatever that looks like. And if we're using AI to, leverage that relationship, how do we let them know that? How do we let them know that this is what we're using and what consents do we need to be mindful of? And this is usually where people start to get nervous and they say things like, just don't use it. The truth of the matter is, it's just like social media 10 years ago. You're going to need to use it. You're going to fall so behind in innovation and progressing forward for your nonprofit if you're not using it. Okay. And then the last thing you want to think about is who's going to be the human oversight. AI is not going to replace jobs. AI is going to make things more efficient. And so you have to figure out, do we hire an AI manager? We currently are doing AI management for about 12 organizations right now, from very small grassroots to larger organizations. And it really is just helping them build that foundation of creating a means to implement AI most appropriately, most strategically, and to really educate and train their staff on how to use it, and kind of stay in the loop so that they are not using platforms that are out of date or harmful. So we talked about the bias things. A couple of questions to just kind of always ask. Um, are we excluding someone? Are we being harmful in what we're using? Um, is it about accessibility, that we're using it? What's an ethical compliance measurement for us? What does that look like? So you can say things like 10% of our website content potentially is generated from AI sourcing. Things like that. Just what does it look like for you? These are conversations you want to go ahead and start having immediately. The benefit of keeping it in an enterprise or in your own bubble is that you can create what is culturally sensitive or language that you need to use that's more inclusive. You can go to CDC or any organization that is producing, like, here's the appropriate way to use this language, and pull that information and use it in your prompts. So don't feel like you have to create what that looks like. But it's also important to have diversity in thought, not just in AI, which is why we use ChatGPT and Claude and other platforms, having that diversity in what it looks like. You just saw what that looks like. We gave the same scenario and it kicked back like really different responses. And so making sure you're not just only capturing not just AI, but also human thought diversity and what that looks like for your organization as well. So, oops, I don't know how that happened. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can fix that really quick. The benefit sometime of being able to control the slides. Sometimes being able to control the slides. Maybe not. I don't want to hold you. So this one was really just about, there we go. no, won't let me. So this one was really just about being able to manage what it looked like to be protective, and securing that data. And this kind of goes into what I mean. So when you're talking about AI, you have what we call projects or agents or your own chat GPT. So I'll give you an example. I have a marketing and communications chat GPT that I have for some of my marketing students. And the only information that they can get from it is what I put into it. So this might be helpful if you think about your training or onboarding or your policies and procedures. So you can create an agent or a hub of information about your policies and procedures. You can upload every single policy and procedure that you have. And then when you have a team member that has a question about said policy and procedure, it is only going to give them information that you have put into that hub. So it's not like they're going out into Google and searching that information. They're searching the hub that you give it. So again, if you're on platforms like SharePoint or things like that, where you have internal networks or internal like web pages, this is a great place for you to use ChatGPT or Claude to kind of house that information. It might be HR questions like, when is open enrollment? And they can just ask those questions to that HR thought partner, right? So maybe you don't have an HR team, but you can upload all of your HR policies into one space. And when someone on your team has questions, they can ask within inside that hub. For internal use, Claude again has the enterprise. It is a little bit pricey. The prices will change because everything is kind of new and fresh. Start with the free, move into the $20 a month one as you progress in your learning experience. Microsoft also has a private deployment where you can go in and you can be like, okay, here's all the things that we need to do or want to do. Is this open AI source appropriate? You can ask it questions. It won't be biased. There are several times where I will be in ChatGPT and ask it about Claude or vice versa, and it really gives this kind of unbiased response. So just think about how you can begin to use it. It doesn't have to be something that's outward facing or something that's externally published. It can be something that is internal. Are your policies and procedures outdated? What about your bylaws? Have you recently changed some of your mission and vision and focus? Or are they out of sync with your programs? Can you upload all that information and say, hey, we really need to update this. What does this look like? Get a draft version, give it to your legal counsel and say, here's a draft version of where we're at. Does this make sense? Does this work? After back and forth tweaks, much easier for you to move through that. Anyone that's had to do annual or bylaw updates when you've had strategic things change, the value, how much time you're going to spend. Think about the last time you had to change or update a mission statement or value statement and the back and forth that you went to get those things done. Using Claude, using ChatGPT, or even Microsoft's OpenAI is your leveraging tool to kind of speed up or expedite the things that you're already going to be doing. So when you think also about the people behind the machine, um, you want someone who specializes in prompt engineering. That is the skill set. You don't need someone that specializes in coding. You don't need someone that specializes in um, project management or process improvement. You need someone that specializes in prompt engineering. There are right now tons of courses and certifications on prompt engineering. In fact, we even have one. We have a 3-part series that teaches you how to create this templated way to prompt engineer the platforms that you use. And so consider a third-party person or consider this, someone's job within your organization, depending on how big or small you are. It might be something that you contract 2 or 3 hours, or it might be something that you're like, you know what? We need somebody for 6 months to like revamp and get done all this stuff and lead us in the right direction so that we are, using unbiased platforms. We're using, culturally or language sensitive information, things of that nature, that will give you that framework of that governance that you need in order to kind of fly on your own later. So I said all of that to say this. Not everyone needs to access everything. Just because you want to implement ChatGPT does not mean that your volunteer coordinator now needs to use it or have access to that. You're still going to guard your information appropriately and make it make sense for your group. It might be that you only use it in your donor development space. Don't feel like you have to use it everywhere in all the things. I know a lot of folks are using Gemini in emails, and they're not even thinking in emails anymore. They're really like kind of starting an email, or they're putting into ChatGPT. I need to create an email that says, right? But I want to be nice when I say it, right? So all of those things are happening now. I know it used to be when we would create documents or information, content, we would throw it in a Word doc so it would catch any grammar or spelling errors so that we could kind of, okay, copy paste, we're good, and put it back into whatever document that we were working on. So same is true for ChatGPT. Figure out where you need it at the most and then start to implement it in those spaces. And then create different levels of access or percentage use. So, for example, in your programs, you might have zero use for ChatGPT, right? What do they need to use ChatGPT or any other AI platform for? Maybe zero. In your financial space, whether that's 100% finances or your donor development, you might be using it 75% of the time because where your gap is at is in maintaining financial records, showing impact, that ROI, and what that looks like. So you don't necessarily need anything attached to a client's database or client information. I know a lot of people are concerned about like HIPAA, privacy rights, and things like that. Just make a policy that it won't be used in those spaces. Make sure people understand, do not upload, sensitive information into an open, AI source. And then you want to keep track of who's doing what and what that looks like. So anytime you are getting or generating content from AI, you should have a disclaimer. Some of the content generated was produced by AI. I think it's even appropriate to say which platform, depending on the type of content. So if you use AI to help you redo your bylaws, it doesn't mean that you have to say, we faked it till we made it and we had them create our bylaws. You can say, as a disclaimer, the initial version of the revamped bylaws were supported through an AI platform. The final version was reviewed and final approved by legal counsel. You just want to make it make sense. Get used to using that language. I think right now a lot of people feel like ChatGPT or these AI sources are like their little secret. Like, I don't want people to know that that's what I've used. Like, I'm not that brilliant to use it. And the truth of the matter is, you really have to be because you're prompting the information, you're giving the information. So you have to be some level of genius in order to get it to spit back to you what it's giving you. And then try and work with outside partners that are understanding the importance of the information. So, for example, I mentioned ChatGPT does a really good job with analyzing spreadsheets, manuals, big components of data, and breaking it down and summarizing it. I don't want to put private or sensitive information just upload it into ChatGPT. I want to be mindful of what that looks like so that I don't have an issue later on when, Karen's, client visit is somehow out in the world. So make sure you're working with people that understand the importance of your privacy. On January 15th, I will have a workshop style training. The workshop style training, we let in 5 participants because we actually build ChatGPT together. We build your prompt templates. So we walk through what that looks like. The reason that we have 5 in there is because we learn from each other and what that looks like. And if you have a question, somebody else probably has the same question or something similar, or they have a pain point and you're like, man, I didn't even realize that was a pain point for me. And we also do on-demand booking. And this is just that one-on-one session. And I don't mean one person with me, I mean one group with me. So if you want your development team to jump on a call and help them strategize ways to use ChatGPT in their development division, then that's something that we can do as well. All right. So I'm going to open it up to questions, and please be patient with me because we're on several platforms. So I'll be clicking a little bit and slow, but if you would drop your questions into the chat, that would be most helpful because then I can manage and go to each one individually. And I did see some questions. Let me go back to those. First question, do you recommend paying for ChatGPT if you're not using it as an organization? I say start off with just playing around with it. When we do the in-person training, we do things like creating recipes. We do silly things like, okay, go in your refrigerator and, tell me 8 ingredients. And of those 8 ingredients, we put into ChatGPT, give me 3, dinner recipes or whatever that looks like. So we start on a personal space, and that's what I would recommend. If you are the IT, finance, innovative person, marketing communications, or the development person, I think that you can start to be really strategic in your prompt engineering and put in those pain points. I really need to create, a series of newsletters about XYZ campaign. Can you give me an outline or a template? And this doesn't go into great detail, but it gives you the opportunity to learn it first before you pay. Again, the first price point for both ChatGPT and Claude is like $20 a month. You're more than going to get that back, 100% going to get that back. So I say absolutely, definitely use this so that you can, move forward in that direction. All right. Would you recommend Claude over ChatGPT for the marketing department? Um, here's how I would use it. I would start with ChatGPT and ask for a list of ideas. And when you get the list of ideas, what happens is it gets your brain, your juices going, right? And you're like, you know what? Out of the 8 ideas that it gave me, I really like 3. I would take those 3 ideas and I would drop it into Claude. Because remember, this is your sophisticated thought partner. And I would say, Claude, I've got these 3 ideas that I came up with all on my own. And I want to know, given my organization, our current state, our bandwidth, all of the stuff you're going to prompt it with, you're going to feed it, which ones should I execute? But then also ask it, do you think there's a better way to do this? Right? Remember, it's a thought partner, it's not transactional. Uh, can you go back to, yes, they wanted to go back to the slides on the donor development platforms or fundraising platforms. So the ones, again, AI is being integrated into pretty much everything. And you might not even realize AI is in there. All of your automations are there. If you send out emails and you send out 100 emails and 50 people open it, and you send out another email to the other 50 people that didn't open it, that's AI. it's predictive. It's kind of filling in those spaces for you. So AI has always been there. These other platforms, you really have to figure out where your biggest pain point is first, and then figure out which platform works for you. Questions that I would have is first, privacy, if they have governance or privacy or ways to maintain your information internally and it's not shared openly. The second thing I would want to know is, what does your AI customer service look like? Because sometimes what will happen is these platforms are so excited to offer this to you that they don't take the time to build the infrastructure to support whatever it is that you're doing. So, one of the reasons that I love Giving Loop is it teaches you how to write successful messages. It teaches you how to write direct, like text messages, things of that nature to encourage people based off of how they've already engaged with you and not just kind of this blanket statement. You have two different, let's see, if you have different organizations that you work with, should you create a chat GPT for each? So for ChatGPT, yes, you want one for each because remember, it's a language model. It's learning you and all the things about you or that organization. For Claude, however, they have their work separated into what they call projects. So internally for my organization, we use Claude and we have a project for each client. So when we go into that client's project or folder, it already has all of the conversations there for us to bounce off of. So we don't have to kind of reintroduce the prompt. We don't have to say things like, this is my organization name and what we do and who we serve, and this is our tone. We don't have to do any of that stuff because it sits within that project. And the project component on Claude is that $20 feature. It's not in the free one, but it's definitely in the $20 one. So if you had to pick, I would move to Claude for the paid version and then use ChatGPT for more of the transactional list idea dropping things. Okay. The class date is on the January 15th, and I will send a follow-up like survey out, but it will have the registration for that. I don't think we put it live just yet. And it will have the link for the book on demand. And we try to be supportive. So if you are like, hey, there's me and two other organizations, we're teams of 2 and 3. How do we do this? We'll work with you to figure something out. I think I caught them all. I think I got all the questions. Yes, I think we're good. All right, we are finishing 2 minutes early. I'm going to give you back your time. This recording will be on YouTube. We'll send the link out. It usually generates fast. There's going to be a private link that has all the questions like this. And then there's going to be a public one just where we've gone in and edited. So if any like fumbling around and stuff that I've done, we kind of remove that stuff out of here. Any questions that we might have answered that were specific, I don't think we did any this time. We try to remove those out of the public one. So you'll get an email with January 15th, the one-on-one booking, and the link to the private YouTube. You have to use that exact link. And then later, the regular one will be on there. We don't give out the slides. We just give out the YouTube link for you guys to jump in on, but you can kind of move through it. It separates it in segments. So I'm Nisi with AJB Consulting. Thank you guys so much across all the platforms. I appreciate everybody jumping on. I hope that you guys have wonderful, wonderful holidays with friends and family, and I hope to see you guys soon. Talk later.